The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by Blackberry. Love doing business on your Blackberry smartphone at blackberry.co.za.
Good evening and welcome to the ZA Tech Show. My name is Sam Beckbessinger, and fasten your seatbelts, folks, because I am going to be your host this evening. It is Monday the 24th of October if you're watching this live, and this is episode 182. So, joining me in the studio tonight, who shall we start with? We basically have the ZA Tech Show's two biggest alcoholics with us tonight. So, if the show goes very badly south, then you know that it's because, not only because I'm the host, but because we have both whiskey and wine represented on our panel tonight. So let's start with wine. Andy, let me just check that this is your mic. Mr. Andy Hadfield.
It's so hot I should be wearing a thong.
You're so hot you should be wearing a thong.
And I do know this, but wow, it is hot. Ah!
Indeed.
Anyway, hello, how are you?
Hello. So it's Andy Hadfield from Real Time Wine and Mzansi Gold and various
other things.
Little mischievous projects.
I'm over project, I think.
Are you?
Projected.
Yeah. It's kind of the end of the year as well approaching.
Yes.
Running out of steam.
And Elder Scrolls Skyrim is coming out, and that's going to chew 200 hours of my life.
Yeah, we'll be talking about a lot of gaming stuff later. And in the other corner is the dashing Nick Callegari. Nick, how are you doing this evening?
Hi Sam, fine and you?
Good.
Awesome.
Good. Also,
I look terrible in a thong, by the way.
Do you? I look wonderful in a thong.
Yeah. It's all about the cut, really. Yeah.
Well, yes, and the ass.
Okay.
And
so
today in the ZA Tech Show.
So I'm just
on to tech news, hey?
I'm going to hold the thong conversation right here. So let's kick off with technology news. So the first number of big things that happened this week. Let's talk about Android, because they did have some stuff that came up. Now, I know that you guys discussed this quite extensively last week, but let's just touch on it. So firstly, Motorola launched their RAZR or RAZR phone. I'm not quite sure how we're going to say that one. And then that news was immediately trumped by the beautiful Galaxy Nexus and ice cream sandwich. So, thoughts?
Don't short sell the RAZR, because it was probably one of Motorola's most popular handsets back in the day. And correct me if I'm wrong, they're still in high demand with people.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, they kind of like the antiques that everybody wants to have. There was the first really thin, really small handset.
The fashion phone.
It was like a wafer. It was so thin.
Yeah.
I mean, the new one is stunning. I mean, it's very, curved and lovely and very sexy.
And I think they've kept the sort of design elements, making it thin and light and really, really good looking. I mean, everybody that's been tweeting about this phone ever since they officially launched it last week was, this is the most beautiful phone they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay, the N9 is coming in at a close second, apparently. To the Twitter sphere today,
unfortunate Migo, so, I mean, what's exciting for me about the ice cream sandwich announcement, because I have this lovely little beast, this Nexus S, is that the Android 4.0 is quite soon going to be available for kind of the backward handsets, which makes me very happy and makes me feel slightly less Android envy, which is good.
You have Android envy?
I have so much Android envy. My Android has...
We were chatting about ice cream sandwich, and I think we're starting to get closer to a smooth consumer experience. I don't think we're there yet, but we're starting to get closer, and that only bodes well for competition. It bodes well for pushing Apple to keep innovating. So I'm excited about it.
Definitely.
I'd like to see it.
Where have we heard this argument before?
Well, in the previous three Androids.
No, we've heard it in the Linux space.
We're nearly there.
And bless their
viable.
cotton socks. Ubuntu. I have a really soft spot for Ubuntu, but every time there's a new animal that comes out, it's always, we are just that much closer to making it desktop friendly and with mass appeal.
I think that's rubbish. I got my mother onto Ubuntu. It's that easy to use. It's really it's totally, it's there. It's been there for the last couple of releases.
What's Ubuntu's market share at the moment?
I'm just going to change the conversation. So, I mean, it'll obviously be interesting to see how the Galaxy Nexus stacks up against Nokia's new device, which they're obviously going to launch over the course of the next week at Nokia World. Obviously, there's been so much hype about the C-Ray device and all the things that we think it's going to do. It's going to be interesting to have that one to stack up, because I think we're all very bored with the Android iPhone comparison. So it'll be very interesting to see the new player and what they can bring to the table.
It makes the job very difficult for handset manufacturers as well, because you're sitting with iPhone, you're sitting with Nokia, and then you're sitting with a handful of handset manufacturers who have absolutely nothing that can differentiate themselves with, except hardware. And I mean, even hardware is now, we're at a stage where hardware doesn't matter anymore. Now all of a sudden it's how pretty you can make the UI look, or how long you can make the battery last.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Simon's been saying this for ages though, but Nokia's going to kill if they come out with pink phones and blue phones and red phones.
Totally.
Because every phone at the moment
which was the reason
great.
that it wasn't the 3310, but they had a very early phone in the 90s that succeeded on exactly the same basis with exchangeable covers. Remember, that was the reason that everyone wanted that phone. Well, every girl anyway.
Exchangeable covers and custom network logos.
Yes,
you could
yes,
download little
of course.
pictures and stuff.
And then you put those little flashing stickers on that would save your brain from cancer.
Yes.
So I mean that's an interesting
nice
point.
segue.
Yeah, nice segue into. So there's been some new data released. Not that we really need that much new data. I mean, really,
I need new data.
Really?
Yes.
You're not convinced yet?
No. I like the fact that there's a study that's been done over 18 years or so.
Yeah. So sorry, just to give you some context. So the new data that's been released is cell phones are not going to give your brain cancer. At least it looks very unlikely. Obviously, with science, we can always be open to the possibility of something disproving our theories. But it's a study that's been conducted over the last 18 years, and there is no link that can be found.
Congratulations, you win one internet.
Yeah. You win, you pwn. Yeah.
I don't know. Look, the funny thing about technology is that it's always safe until it's not. It's the same thing with pharmaceutical drugs and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we, in the name of good corporate profits, we tend to push the boundaries these days. So I'm kind of glad that 18 years of research have finally proven I'm not going to die. Although I'll die from something else, I'm sure.
But how long until that 18 years of research is debunked? I mean, you read online all the time. Chocolate is good for you. Chocolate is not good for you. Tomatoes cause cancer. Tomatoes cure cancer. Yeah, it's...
Do you know that tomatoes were outlawed in much of Europe for about 200 years because they were believed to be poisonous? Yeah. So, I mean, there we go. That just goes to show. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that from a scientific perspective, it's been quite clear for a long time that the levels of radiation are just nowhere near high enough to cause any kind of problem. I mean, I'm glad that there's more research and it's more long-term, definitely. But, I mean, it's like when microwaves came out, I mean, I remember when I was a child, my mother was terrified of the microwave, like you couldn't be in the kitchen when the microwave was on. So
well, I don't blame her. The inner workings are called a Megatron. I mean, how much more fearful?
It's like, I'm sorry, Dave, we can't let you do that. Yeah.
It's a Decepticon.
Yeah.
Well, olden day microwaves, I mean, I don't think they had the strongest glass or whatever the hell it was at the front. I always used to get a little bit of a tan if I stood in front of my first microwave.
How long were you cooking stuff for in the microwave? 4 hours later, the chicken was definitely done.
in the microwave.
They had this convection thing, so that it was a kind of half microwave, half stove, and I think that's where they all went wrong. But it lasted for 15 years.
Yeah, things are made to last back in the day. Hey? I mean, my parents are still using their 72-inch Telefunken TV, which they bought in
just don't make them like they used to, kids today.
Yeah. That's an actually really interesting point, because TVs used to last 10 years. Easy,
at
sometimes
the very
15.
least.
Yeah. And now we're encouraged, like with normal consumer electronics, we're encouraged to upgrade TVs every 2-3 years.
But that's also...
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make financial sense for a company to make something that lasts 10 years, because they're not going to make any more money out of you.
But it's also a bit of a Moore's Law thing. I mean, it's the fact that you need to upgrade every 2 years because...
better?
Oh, but they are.
We haven't talked about TVs on the show for ages.
So let's talk about TVs, Andy. What TVs are exciting you at the moment?
None.
High five.
Nice.
I plan on keeping mine for a while.
Yeah.
Seriously, so there's some vaguely cool tech coming. So LED is a cool tech. I don't think it's that much better than LCD to warrant the double the price tag.
Yeah.
There's HD. So we get 1080i over DSTV, which is cool, and I don't think the human eye can really tell the difference between 1080i and 1080p.
Unless you've got a 50-inch TV, I mean, then you
maybe,
can
yeah. The sport has stopped flickering now, which used to be one of the big problems, which would cause you to upgrade from an early adopter flat screen TV. I don't see the point.
Yeah.
I think
I don't know. I haven't had a TV.
You know, and the thing about TV technology, if we look at where all the technology is going, it's not in improving the quality of the picture on the screen, because the quality of the picture on the screen is dependent on your source.
Yeah.
It's in making them more efficient. And if you look at like the jump from LCD to LED, for example, it's an LED TV is still an LCD TV. It just has different backlighting. LEDs, which consume 35% less electricity, are brighter, can give you better color differentiation. The next logical step is the AMOLED TVs, which have even brighter AMOLED lights behind them, and consume a whole lot less electricity. So it's not a case of making them better quality. It's just a case of making them more efficient and making them nicer to look at. You know,
now they're internet connected. So,
but you see, I mean, I think the TV as a device, like the incremental improvements in the image quality, are less interesting to me than how people are using TVs differently. So how increasingly it's the giant screen that we've always wanted to do other stuff on.
How are they using them differently?
Well, okay. Well, I mean, obviously amongst early adopters all have a gaming system plugged into them, or
we've had since the PS1.
No, of course.
Are we using TVs as internet browsing devices?
Not yet.
I don't think so.
Not yet. But
early adopters are.
If you look at that,
why they've all got iPads.
The new generation of TVs that are coming out all come with Ethernet ports in them.
Yeah.
And it's
for an extra 1,800 rand.
No, as standard.
Minded.
As standard. There's a Series 4 Samsung LED TV, 40 inches out there, 5.5 grand, and it comes with an Ethernet port. You plug your modem straight into the TV, and you can update its firmware. You can surf the internet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that, granted, there's a bit of hacking you need to do because that Ethernet port in some models isn't activated.
Yeah.
But it's there, and you know, I'm privileged enough to work in an industry that is plowing money and human resources into R&D around televisions and about how people consume their media. And I can tell you that the technology is there. The people just need to start using it. But the key is for companies like, I work for DSTV, companies like DSTV, for example, to make apps available for people to use.
See, I don't know if apps...
And it's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming.
No, it will come.
I don't know if apps
I sit next to a guy who has ripped apart an LG 3D TV, who has reverse engineered this thing to find out exactly how we can get apps onto it and how these things work. And I mean there's nothing under the table about it. It's we're doing it in partnership with the guys, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, sure.
Apps will come. Apple TV.
Yeah, sure. But although Apple TV has been around for 8 years now and still hasn't made any significant market share. But what's interesting for me is you already get those very simple sort of 400 rand DVD players that have USB ports in it. So from a sort of streaming legally or non perspective, and then controlling your own
everything's
content.
legal, Sam.
Yeah, everything's legal if you look at it.
Especially if it's Creative Commons.
Yeah,
totally. Just download that kind of content, not Walking Dead season 2 episode 1, never. But I mean, I think that's a great thing because that gets people into the habit of being in control of their own media. And once they've done that and they've experienced that, you can never go back. You can never go back to just waiting for someone to tell you what you should feel like watching on Sunday night at 8 p.m. So people will become more demanding, and as people become more demanding in this country, big companies like DSTV are going to have to invest in the technology to keep up.
And they are. But if you look at the States, I think the improvements are being driven not by the TV manufacturers in terms of owning your own media, which you're right, I think is a big trend. It's being driven by the boxes that you plug in.
Yeah.
The Roku box, the Boxy box. Media centers that you get your techie mate to set up for
although
you.
something like
Brett Haggard,
TiVo,
you still owe me a media center.
something like TiVo has actually really failed in the US over the last couple of years because the cable companies who own the content are able to offer deals that are just much better value for money because they can package it with the content in a way that you can't if you just selling the hardware. So I agree the hardware is crucial, but
where TiVo is going to hang on, from what I hear, is that it has, and this is a huge pet hobby of mine, is it has very advanced filtering. So it knows what you're watching, and it knows to suggest certain things based on that listening history.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and the TV is unwatchable. I can't watch when there's 3,000 channels. I don't know where to go. I can't remember what number, and you've got to have filtering tools. It's the same problem I have with the internet at the moment. I tend to go to the same two sources because it's too much of a pain in the ass to remember everything else.
It's that beautiful quote, getting information from the internet is like trying to take a drink from a fire hydrant. You know, it's just too much stuff.
So filters will win.
Can I tell you where the next big step is and where your filters will come in? I'm pointing at the iPad for everybody who can't see what I'm pointing at. iPad, iPhone, Android phone, whatever it is. What we're looking at is a second screen here. To be able to schedule exactly what you said. People don't like to be dictated to. You will watch the 8 o'clock movie at 8 o'clock on Sunday because we say so, and that's when we scheduled it. Getting around that is being able to access, for example, a TV guide on your iPad, and then set a remote recording on your PVR to say, right, I want to record the 8 o'clock movie. Well, screw you know, I'm out having drinks and pizza with my friends on Sunday nights, and I just saw that it's an awesome movie. Well, boom, we'll do it there.
And from a filtering perspective, I'm not sure it necessarily has to be built into the TV experience itself, because if you're using something like Get Glue, and yes, at the moment no one is using Get Glue, but you know, when Get Glue becomes integrated into Facebook, which, let's face it, it will eventually, because Facebook increasingly wants to be the internet, then that's where that stuff will happen. You know,
I'll pick Get Glue later, and then I'll read off one or two of my suggestions, and we'll see if it makes any sense.
Awesome.
Because I've used it a bit, and I think it's a great filtering tool.
Okay, so we just need to take a quick break and talk about one of our very favorite sponsors who we love and heart big time, Vodacom. So they've recently made a great announcement, which is to do with education in South Africa, which is something that I think we all feel quite strongly about. It's a project they're calling their Mobile Education Program, and what it aims to do is to offer cloud computing services to teachers in schools throughout the country on kinds of platforms that they can actually access. And they've got a number of fantastic partners. They've gone in with the Department of Education. They've gone in with Mindset Learn, with Microsoft, with Cisco. And they're offering, firstly, ICT training for the teachers themselves, which is great, because if the teachers are going to transfer those skills, they need to know them themselves. And they're also offering learning curriculum, learning material for the curricula, specifically maths and science stuff. And in addition to that, they're also rolling out 9 massive sounding ICT centers, one in each province. There we go, those things. And those will feature sort of learning classrooms and internet cafes and all of those lovely things to actually make the hardware and the infrastructure available. So very cool thing from Vodacom. Cool.
And thanks for keeping this podcast free.
Yeah, thank you for keeping this podcast free. Okay, so let's come a little bit closer to home. So we've been talking about sort of Android, and we're talking about TV, which is very much an international thing. But on the local technology scene this week and today, there's also been some interesting moves and shaking up. So, you know, firstly, I mean, we've got Telkom in front of the Competition Tribunal. We've got Korea Telecom talking about buying a part of Telkom, and we've got our old friend Roy Padayachie potentially, well, definitely being moved. So interesting stuff this week.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, and I was listening to 702 on the way here, and you know, I don't know who the analyst was that they had on. I sort of tuned in halfway, but it's definitely a promotion for Roy. You know, Roy was brought in to sort of stabilize things and sort of pick up where the previous minister, rest her soul, actually left off. Some people are a bit disappointed about it. He was starting to get some stability. He was starting to talk what we all wanted to hear. And for him to be snatched up at such an early stage, and sort of sent out into, I think it was sent to Public Works.
Yeah.
It's a blow. But from what I've heard, his replacement, which is Dina Pule from the presidency, she's got a lot of experience,
and she has experience within the communications department as well, which is good.
People who have dealt with her have said that she's quite good at what she does. So it's a bit disappointing that she doesn't have any experience or no connection to what Roy currently has been trying to do in the ministry.
But I think from an execution perspective, and from my kind of experience working with government, I don't think ministers actually are that crucial to what actually happens, so to the execution of things. Yes, from a directive perspective, but the DG is not changing. And I think from an execution perspective,
they hold the lesser minions accountable theoretically.
Yeah.
So it's like a corporate reporting chain. If the guy at the top isn't accountable, the guys at the bottom definitely aren't accountable.
But even from an execution perspective, and from where the buck really stops, I think in practice it's often with the DG when it comes to getting stuff done. So the big worries that I've heard expressed so far are that all the good things that Roy set in place might not necessarily get fulfilled now. But I don't know if that worry is necessarily.
I don't know if they won't get fulfilled. I think they will get fulfilled, but maybe at a later date.
Sure.
But I mean, it's early days. The announcement was made today. We'll have to see what happens, and we can strike up this conversation again in 3 months' time and see what she's actually done and how she's done it. But it's disappointing, but not entirely a bad thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about Telkom and the potential for Korea Telecom to get involved.
So why would Korea Telecom want to buy a stake?
That is an interesting question.
Right,
I suppose because
I asked the question because I have nothing better to
let's ask Helen Zille. She apparently knows the answer to everything. But
look, one good thing to come out of what's been spoken about there, and it's something that we hope is on the cards, and something that's been spoken about is the whole fibre to the home thing. We all have seen Dark Fibre Africa ripping up our sidewalks and laying down miles and miles and miles of all this fibre that is probably not going to get used in the not too distant future, but we'd like to know that that's eventually going to get used for something.
I suppose from Korea Telecom's perspective, when you're looking at a market like South Africa, which is so far behind, there's so much room to go and make stuff happen. So they must have seen some kind of opportunity.
Interesting study came out today that said that the Netherlands has the world's fastest sort of internet connections now.
Interesting.
Which is surprising, considering Korea's big push to be the world leader in internet connectivity and stuff. So while that has no bearing on the Telkom deal whatsoever, it'll be great if the deal does go through. To have a company like Korea Telecom pushing hard for internet connectivity here in South Africa, and
in my limited experience, big Asian companies or countries never take interests in other countries or companies without there being some kind of strategy.
Well, look,
I don't think they're buying for the profits.
No, they'll come in and they'll build a couple of roads and power stations and whatever, and eventually walk away with all our minerals. But
exactly.
No, that's
okay, before we become the ZA political show, let's
it's all related to tech somehow.
Sort of. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing, and I think the interesting question for me is what's going to happen to government's share in Telkom, because, I mean, they're sitting at, like 40% at the moment, and so the thing that looks most likely is that they're just going to release new shares, so government's portion will just be diluted down to 30-odd something. But, I mean, there is always the possibility that government could be convinced to sell some of their shares, which might be a good move overall for Telkom. Who knows?
We'll have to see. I mean, it's we can hope with announcements like Korea Telecom potentially coming in, for example, and with the shuffles in the cabinet. Maybe this is the beginning of what we've all been dreaming about, and what's all been spoken about but never actually actioned. So. Goodness knows that we need a proper kick in the pants when it comes to the telecoms industry.
A kick in the pants, indeed. Okay.
Because this is a family show after all, and kick in the pants is a technical term.
I think the rule that I heard from Simon is that you can swear in Afrikaans. So just throwing it out there.
South Korea, yo donder.
Donder. Okay.
But you can bring fibre to the home. We'd like that. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be nice. We'll give you a sufficient supply of minerals for that.
In fact, I mean, rolling out fibre to my home wouldn't be expensive at all because I've got a manhole cover right outside.
Yeah. I live in the middle of Sandton, so there literally is fiber in my street. I just need to go and jerry-rig it. I need to get one of those people who, I don't know, I need
Splices
to get someone to do
stuff.
it. Yeah. So how much would you guys pay for fiber to the home right now if you could get it now before anyone
Interesting
else?
question.
Yeah.
So what do we pay currently? I pay just under
900.
$1,000
Yeah.
a month for a 4 meg.
Yeah.
Uncapped.
uncapped
I'm so
ADSL.
throttled, it's not funny.
Absolutely.
Anyway, moving
It's
on.
a bit rich for me. I'm on a 1 meg account and it's 257 rand a month. Plus, I'm not on uncapped either. But purely because I need the unshaped traffic for gaming. So probably in the region of about $500 for me a month.
That's not bad.
Okay, so
Yeah.
900. So for fiber, what kind of speeds am I going to get in fiber?
Let's say blimmin' fast.
No, but lemon fast, you know.
I mean, fiber, they're talking, it's hundreds of megabits, even,
Yeah.
gigabits.
Yeah.
They talk,
Let's say you can stream The Walking Dead with no buffering.
you have this real obsession with Walking Dead,
Yeah,
don't
it's because
you?
I watched it last night and
Such a
I'm
good
really
show, it
freaked
really
out
is.
still.
So as
Sorry,
a-
I didn't
anyway,
watch it last night
back
because
to
it's not
this.
legally.
As a business expense, I might choke down 1,500 or so. You know, Stephen Ambrose was saying he gladly chokes down 2K a month for uncapped business ADSL.
Yeah.
1,500 odd. I think past that we're getting to the region of rip-off.
Yeah.
Nick?
Yeah,
Whether we need it or
like
not,
I said,
another question.
I'm not a huge internet user, contrary to.
Aren't you a geek? Wait,
I'm
so
I'm a geek,
confused.
but my most of my internet usage is for gaming,
Okay.
and that doesn't really chow a lot of bandwidth, and you don't really need speed. What you need is good latency.
Latency, yeah.
And at the moment, I'm getting on some of the local service ping times of like 23 milliseconds, which is
pretty
fantastic
impressive.
for shooting people in
Where
the
I
face.
live. Okay, so
So-
let's segue from there quite nicely into gaming news.
How do you go shooting people in the face?
Ha
Shooting
Nice.
ha! Totally did that. Okay, so Nick, I know that you particularly are super excited this week. So I just saw the Modern Warfare 3 trailer today, and I
Yeah.
actually got goosebumps.
How
It was
awesome.
that good.
Look, shooter season 2011, as Yahoo from Zero Punctuation so eloquently puts it, is in full steam, and we've had a couple of releases, Rage being one of them, and Deus Ex being the other. We're on the eve of the launch of Battlefield 3, which is one of the most, between Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3, the two most hotly anticipated games of the year.
And they look hot.
You can call me, I tweeted this today, you can call me a first-person shooter heathen if you want to, but I'm excited for both of them. I play both of the franchises. I have a bias towards Battlefield because Bad Company 2 was just the game that changed online multiplayer for me. So Battlefield.
But they mostly are online multiplayer. It's not really a kind of you and
Sit
at home with
down
your
and-
mates experience.
Look, they throw in a single player mission as a token. There it is.
Yeah.
But what people are really dropping their $500 for is the online multiplayer. But for Battlefield 3, which is coming out this week, it's so much more than that. They've taken. There's actually a video, and I want all of our listeners to go and Google this. There's a YouTube video, which is a Battlefield. Is it real? And what they do, they take gameplay, actual physical gameplay from the game, and they mix it up with real Marines and US Army running
That's
around
amazing.
shooting things, blowing stuff up. You cannot tell the difference between the two games. The destructible between the two games, between the game and the reality. I mean, the destructible environments. This new Frostbite 2 engine, and I picked Battlefield 3 beta a couple of weeks ago when I was on the show, and I stand by my pick. This Frostbite 2 engine that DICE has put together is unbelievable. Now combine this with 64 player per side multiplayer, where at the moment the limit is 32 per side, so they've essentially doubled per 128 players.
Yeah.
It's a war.
Yeah, it is a real
Full on war. You've got
Backing-
mixed weapon, full on war.
Yeah.
You've got tanks, you've got Apache helicopters, you've got quad bikes, you've got boats, you've got, you name it. I mean, F-16 fighters, you name it, it's there to use, and you can blow anything up. If some guy is camping in the top of a building and sniping people off at a distance, you target that building
You can
with a
blow
mortar
anything
strike
up.
and you take
There
it
we go.
down.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to, I don't know, look at gaming from a almost sociological perspective and how these things go in and out of vogue. I mean, this is clearly the first-person shooter craze right now, and the war games, and
and Battlefield is really huge. I mean, it's got so many players, and I mean, I play on a weekly basis when my son's actually sleeping, and. You play against people in the States and in Europe, and there's always somebody to play with.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just
what
the
I
realism.
found,
It's amazing. It's such escapism, but it's real at the same time. I mean, if you've got a big enough screen, you can just immerse yourself in that.
Sorry, Andy?
I found that the barrier to entry to those first-person shooters is too high. The online multiplayer ones.
Yeah.
Is that I've done it multiple times, and I get shot in the face 10 times a minute
because you're a
unless I
noob,
hide.
Andy. You're a noob.
But I mean, it takes some serious skill, and I don't know. That's why you see casual gaming coming up, because people don't have the time to invest.
So
Says the person that's going to blow 200 hours on Skyrim.
So I've got an interesting sort of thing to pull out on that regard. There's this new game called Wasteland Empires on Facebook, and it's kind of a very watered down sort of Age of Empires, StarCraft kind of build your colony, go attack people sort of game.
Do you have to mine gold and cut down trees?
Totally.
Oh.
You know how it goes. You've played this game before. Everyone's played this game before 100 times, but it's in Facebook. So obviously the people that you're going to go and attack, the colonies are owned by your Facebook friends or by other random people on Facebook. Interesting overlap for me, because kind of the games that we've mainly been seeing on Facebook to date are Cityville and Texas Hold'em. So very basically,
The Sims came to Facebook.
I may or may not be addicted to The Sims. No, I got over my addicted to The Sims. Sorry, but Wasteland Empires is interesting because it's a traditional gamer's game. It feels like a gamer's game, but it's in Facebook.
Distribution. That's why.
Yeah.
But you're right about the barrier to entry. I mean, I didn't get to where the level I am in Bad Company 2 without being shot a million times in the face. But
and it's amazing. I always get shot in the face. I'm that bad. Never in the leg.
Always in the face.
It's always in the
It's
face.
just because of your face, Andy. People
Maybe.
just need to shoot it.
Yeah. So
other games for the the lower barrier to entry players would be Drake's Fortune 3. That's just it. I have only had amazing experiences with Drake's Fortune. It's just this kind of it's Indiana Jones with a slightly younger actor, and you get to control him. It's very, very cool. Have neither of you played it?
No.
Really?
We're not.
I just spent the last 5
suggest-
minutes talking about.
No, I would highly
Can you shoot
suggest
people in
going
the
back.
face? Andy?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's the key question.
It's a
Can you
third-person
blow
shooter.
everything up in next word?
Did you like Indiana Jones?
Oh, how's that a
Which
question?
one?
All of them.
No,
I
not the
actually-
last one.
I-
Crystal Skull was.
Oh no, okay, that was terrible.
I particularly went to the place where
Totally George
Indiana
Lucas.
Jones was filmed, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I
Oh,
may or
cool.
may not have done that in the Middle East.
No
because I was
way.
like, dude, this is Indiana Jones.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was super dorky.
Check it out. I'd even recommend going back to number 1. You'll pick up for $100. No, Drake's Fortune 1 and 2. 2 was brilliant.
And PC, Xbox.
You get chased down by a tank. Proper.
You can do that in Battlefield, and the tank will actually get you.
No, it'll shoot you in the face.
Oh my goodness. I love the parallels between like Grand Theft Auto and war games. Just the sense that you can blow up anything. You can run over anybody. It's all
Yeah.
okay.
Do you guys remember Carmageddon?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Yes. Yeah, now that you say it.
They were also talking, and I won't talk too much about Skyrim because I did last time, but they were talking about the same thing: destructible environments. Amazingly, they almost programmed glitches in to make it seem more realistic.
Yeah.
The one review I read with this guy, he obviously pissed someone off, but he literally got chased down by an entire village.
That's quite
Chased them all the
legit.
way up a mountain.
It's amazing.
In the
that they do
game.
that.
In the game.
All right.
No, he was gaming, and people were like, "That's an atrocity."
So explain to me how glitches make it more realistic.
So not bugs,
Yeah.
but glitches like certain things that the programmers wouldn't have expected to
Yeah.
happen. So
Because
I
life
think
is full of glitches, really.
I think we're at the level of AI programming now that once you set the rules in place, it's going to do certain things you didn't expect it to. And I think that's what they're referring to. They said sentient glitches. That was the technical term. And apparently
Acts of God.
Skyrim is just riddled with these things. And it makes it a lot of fun. It is the only game where you can wander off on a horse to look at the scenery.
Very
No?
cool.
Did you play Red Dead Redemption?
Oblivion.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously
And
the
I did
same.
that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Shooting birds off moving trains.
Grand Theft Horse.
Man, I wish I
Okay.
had more time for this.
So the last thing that I want to bring up before we go to our picks of the week, there's been some stuff around Google this week, and I'm not sure that if anyone else cares about this as much as I do, but honestly, as much as I use Gmail, I'm totally reliant on Docs and all of those things. The Google service that I'm the most dependent on is Reader, and don't judge me. I know that's pretty old school. Who uses an RSS reader? But I mean, it's partly because my job is to stay and to read lots of things. So there's been some changes announced. So they're finally going to update the UI to look more like Docs and all the other things, and they are killing Buzz. And finally, Buzz was always dead, really. I mean, apart from 3 days after launch.
How long until they kill Plus? That's what I want to know.
Do you think they're going to kill Plus? I don't think they will.
Okay, I'm probably speaking to the wrong people here, but when's the last time you accessed and actively used Plus?
I make a point of it. No, it's irrelevant because in South Africa there isn't as much of an active audience. But in the States, most of these big tech pundits have stopped blogging and they've moved to Plus.
Yeah. So I think the big thing is that social networking is no longer something where you have to log onto a system like Facebook and you're then in Facebook space and then you're in social space. Increasingly, it's just a layer over everything else you do. So even if you never log into Plus One, and all you do is you plus one links and you share things and you start seeing that intelligent information in your search results, in your Picasa albums, in everything else, then you're using Google Plus. So I don't know if you have to sit on there.
It's all very siloed still.
Yeah, but this is why this announcement is quite interesting for me, is because what they're doing is they're closing any of the social elements of Reader, which is quite sad for me because I have this very niche sort of group of people that I share a lot with on Google Reader, and they're all my academic friends. They're all people doing their PhDs in quantum physics and all those really fascinating deep science things, and we share a lot on that platform because it's an idea sharing thing, like Twitter, I suppose. But they're closing down all of those social elements
because it's cannibalizing Plus. Yeah,
exactly, and they're closing Buzz, and they're trying to do that. So that's going to be interesting.
But what's that other thing I saw in the show notes? I thought you were potting mad. You said Google to buy Yahoo.
It's just a rumor. I don't know if it's even worth
it. It might be Yahoo.
Goohoo. I'm going with Goohoo.
Yahoo.
Why would they want to? Look, don't get me wrong. I think Yahoo has a whole bunch of positives to it.
Because Microsoft didn't.
No, I'll say Flickr. Flickr is the only reason.
You don't buy Yahoo for Flickr.
No, you buy Yahoo for Flickr because
Yahoo
if you buy Yahoo for
52
Flickr,
properties better than Flickr.
What would you say is a better property?
I forget the name. They have that gossip site.
Oh, that's true. They've got a lot of
massive.
media
That is a media company.
You know what they want? They want Yahoo Answers. That's it.
That's
exactly what they want.
Totally.
I don't know. I think if they bought Flickr and pulled it into Picasa, they would just pwn when it comes to image sharing.
Yeah, look,
they're owning.
And so I doubt if Google were ever to jump forward on any acquisition plan that any form of regulator would actually allow it.
I don't know. Interesting one. It's still very much in the realm of speculation, so I'm not sure how much we should talk about it. Related to the kind of search engine news, the last thing I'll mention, Mr. Hammer of MC fame.
I wanted to talk about this.
is releasing his very own search engine called WireDoo, DOO, goodness knows why. My favorite part of that story is that when it was reported in the New York Times, they referred to him as Mr. Hammer. Mr. Hammer said, how do you take that seriously? I mean, cue the can't click this jokes.
Another thing they said was, rapper entrepreneur, which is pretty much like singer-songwriter actress.
Such a well-rounded human, really successful.
He needs some logo work. Have you seen the logo on that thing?
No.
Have a look at it. It is. It looks like it came off a Commodore 64.
Oh wow, that is pretty special.
Maybe that's the plan.
Truly, but I mean, it's pixelated and nasty and horrible.
Do we have an answer as to why? Why, Mr. Hammer, why?
I suppose
because Jason Callegari said each percentage point of the search market is worth $1 billion. So MC said, I'll have $500 million.
I'm sorry, Andy, that's Mr. Hammer to you.
Mr. Hammer, yeah. Rapper entrepreneur.
It says here that his foray into world of algorithmic search will offer relationship-driven, deep search that goes beyond the lists of links provided by Google and other existing engines.
I think the best description I read about his proposed search engine solution is if you were searching for, buy a new car, you'd see ads for car insurance and links for car insurance, which makes, it sounds like I was going to shoot myself in the face.
What Google does.
Yeah, kind of. You know, so I'm not so sure about
Maybe
that
he's
one.
trying to reinvent Wolfram Alpha.
Yeah, which I've had mixed results from. I must say, I was so excited for it. But besides seeing my age distribution in the US, and maybe I'm not asking the right questions.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
It's like Siri. You
it's
have to ask
limited.
the right
It's
questions.
don't get me started on Siri. There's it's limited by what information is actually out there. I mean, and I'll give you a prime example. If you search Wolfram Alpha for mobile penetration or mobile phones Africa, you'll get a breakdown. But all that information is stuff that you would have found on Google anyway back from 2009.
And the problem, you know, of trying to find accurate stats for that kind of thing is that they just don't exist, and they're totally contradictory
Well,
when
if
you
they do
find
exist,
them.
they're not on the internet.
Yeah, you basically just need to live in Stephen Ambrose's brain, and hope that everything will make sense.
His goodness knows there's enough room for everybody. His brain is so big.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so moving on swiftly, I'm going to go to our second favorite sponsor, who we also heart big time, which is the Blackberry. So Blackberry has had some very interesting announcement this past week, particularly around BBX, and BBX, as we know, is quite exciting for consumers because you're looking at a much more integrated experience between the playbook and the mobile OS. But their announcements this week that we really want to talk about are the ones that are aimed at developers, because there have been some exciting new developments there. So obviously BBX is kind of taking the best of the BlackBerry platform and mixing it with the best of QNX. And for developers, what they've done is...
And 2.49 million people went, what?
QNX, it's a thing, just Google it. Okay, so part of that announcement has also been news of a bunch of developer tool updates, which are going to make life a lot simpler and more lovely for developers for BlackBerry. So it includes stuff like WebWorks, native SDK for the Playbook, and developer beta for the Playbook OS 2.0. And there will be support for things running Android apps within that, which is very exciting.
Oh, this is this Android emulator.
So, and part of this announcement has also been RIM providing some direction for developers, which is great for them, about how exactly to go about developing and monetizing BlackBerry apps. So to just give them some of that support. So cool for BlackBerry.
Why are people slightly negative about the Android emulator? I think it's a wonderful idea.
It's fantastic.
Especially if it's done properly. I mean, it makes BlackBerries super powerful.
We know apps are everything, really.
And now you unlock all Android apps.
Are they negative about the emulator, or are they negative about the hodgepodge that is the Android marketplace getting onto BlackBerry? Because there aren't really any rules and checks in place like Apple has, for example, in the
and
App
Apple's
Store.
still got crap.
From a quality perspective, and I've seen this. I've recently made the transition from iPhone to Android on my Galaxy
Congratulations!
S2,
You don't hear many people going that way.
No, I'm slowly dig my heart out with a spoon every day.
This is one of the many reasons I will never go to iPhone, because I know that you can never come back.
The Android marketplace is the complete antithesis of iPhone. You just look at you compare apps like for like. For example, the Hootsuite app on iOS is fantastic. I love Hootsuite to bits and pieces. Try and use it on this thing. It is unusable.
Yeah.
The features that you like on there, it crashes. It comes back to our argument. Our conversation earlier about Android. It's not quite there yet.
But you know the thing, I think something like the Amazon App Store is really interesting, because think about what Amazon do. It comes back to what you were talking about earlier, Andy, when you were talking about filtering. Yeah. Exactly. Amazon are the expert filterers. And if you can bring that kind of, algorithm, that kind of intelligence about what your friends like, what people like you who like this thing also like, you can get around a lot of those problems. It doesn't matter if there are a lot of bad apps on there, as long as you can easily find the good ones.
I like that app, but wait, it doesn't run with the version of OS that I have on my phone.
Totally. Okay, so let's move to the Pix.
Put me in my place.
As soon as you start talking rubbish about Android, I'm going to get all defensive.
Away from that button.
Yeah, I can just turn off your mic now. Ooh, the power. Okay, so let's move on to Picks of the Week. Andy, let's start with you.
Okay, I have 3, but I'll make them quick.
Ooh. Living on the edge.
Yeah, I know.
That's what she said.
Coming from the person who usually picks 3.
Yeah.
So, 2 quick ones. The first one is I picked Tech for Africa. I think there are only two good conferences that I've really attended in this country, and one is the Discovery Leadership Summit, minus Maria Ramos, and the other one is Tech for Africa. So it's in the next couple of days. If you haven't got
ABSA wants to sponsor the show, we would welcome it.
Of
You're
course.
right, she was terrible. Good
I
grief.
really don't think Maria Ramos would be involved in that decision. So the rest of the speakers were brilliant. So yeah, grab a ticket if you're in a company or a corporate. It has an African flavor this year, which I'm quite excited for. And
For the people who don't know Tech Africa, maybe just describe it in like 140 characters or less.
It's a conference with an African flavor in the technology industry that it's in its second year, and I would say it's probably prided itself on getting very high quality speakers. So last year, Clay Shirky, etc., there were a bunch. Sorry, I had a baby during Tech for Africa, so I didn't see most
How
of it.
inconvenient.
It was a while
No
back.
rubbish. How
history to have a baby.
inconvenient. Those babies.
I missed Clay
How
Shirky
terrible.
because of it. All I saw from Tech for Africa 2010 was Justin Spratt.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, the last thing on Tech for Africa was #Spraddy Rocks.
We love you, Spready.
We love you, Spraddy, big time.
The last thing on Tech for Africa is check out the website and then click on Ignite and then click on Innovation Awards. Because I was pretty blown away. Ignite is their kind of startup pitching contest, and Innovation Award is obviously an award they plan to give. And there were a lot of companies that I had never heard of. All in the technology space, all doing some really heavy innovation for African-style problems. So I think it's worth it.
A
Worth a
short
look.
list of 11, correct? And they all
There were
look
8
fascinating.
Ignite finalists, and I think there are 20 odd innovation finalists. I don't know. It looks like a fairly long list.
Cool.
So yeah, that's pick one. Pick two is we were talking about GetGlue, so I thought I'd just read out my GetGlue recommendations and see if it means anything, and then I'll have one last tiny pick. So there are suggestions for me. I'll run through 5 of them. New on DVD is V,
Ooh.
which I haven't seen.
No, that is the worst sci-fi show
Really?
of
Okay.
all time.
But
The original is
series
great.
or
There
the-
we go.
or the remake?
Yeah, high five, Nick.
All right, yeah.
I think it's the remake.
No.
New video games, Battlefield 3.
Excellent choice.
New releases in fiction, IQ 84.
IQ 84.
I haven't heard of it.
It's not going to win the Booker.
New music releases, Milo Xylotto.
Jeez, I haven't heard Milo Xylotto.
Who is Milo
I
Xylotto?
have no idea.
Well,
Sounds like Miley Cyrus's
recommended
side
TV
project.
shows, The Wire.
Good show, yeah.
Recommended topics, the Iraq War. So anyway,
So our next topic on the ZA Tech Show, let's talk about the Iraq War.
so that is GetGlue, the media filtering thing. Now, obviously,
So,
I
Andy,
don't use it enough.
For those who have never seen it before, do you want to explain what the service is?
So from what I can gather, it's multi-platform, so it works on Android and iPhone, and I think most of them. And what you do is you check into media. So it's the logical extension of Foursquare for location as you check into media. And the idea of it is brilliant because with these second screens that we have pointing at Nick's iPad, you check into media. Your friends check into media, your back channel conversation occurs while you're watching the TV show, and then based on that intelligence you can make recommendations of what they should watch next, or read next, or listen to next, or talk about next. I think the checking into a topic of conversation is a little bit of a stretch,
Well,
but
thinking
hey,
about,
Although, hang
thinking
on.
about is one of the things that
Yeah.
I'm into as well.
I'm thinking about the Iraq War.
Although, hang on, surely a hashtag is exactly that.
Yes, but this is just much more consumer friendly.
And I think it's a lot more focused as well. You can have a million hashtags for the same subject matter because somebody decides that, Ask Helen Zille isn't good enough. You want Ask Helen Zille
So
2011.
let me
and
just
all of a
explain
sudden-
for anyone who might be listening who's not from South Africa. Helen Zille is the head of our opposition party, and she's been very innovative in terms of kind of getting people to interact with her on Twitter, and people are asking her to help them fix potholes.
Just generally
and
using
various things.
technology, she's been good.
Yeah, she's been very good. And unfortunately, this has sort of degenerated into a meme which has hit the worldwide trending list today. I think it's number
Really?
6. Yeah.
Well, I
Very
just
South
asked her
Africa.
about South Korea, so we'll see if she gets back to me.
People are asking Helen Zille sort of all of life's questions, including, everything.
What is the meaning of life?
42 is it
everything, and-
really everything?
She actually, it was quite funny. Just after Trends JHB tweeted that Helen Zille and Ask Helen Zille was trending in Joburg, she quickly retweeted it and said, "Can't you guys get to vote Helen Zille to trend for me?"
She has been quite a good sport, it must be said.
That is pretty cool.
Andy, you had a third pick.
Yes, and the third last quick pick. We were okay for time, aren't we?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Excellent.
Started a bit
So
late.
this one's a bit of a freaky one. I've in a couple of the talks I do, I talk about data privacy.
Jeez, that's freaky. Flap.
Goosebumps.
So
The people, can't they just find you on Facebook and stalk you and rob your houses?
I thought you were Mr. I'm open about everything.
I am
Okay.
completely, and
So-
I do that because I know that anything I put out there is pretty much going to end up public anyway.
Let's make this the Ask Andy 5 minutes. So, Nick, any personal questions we can ask?
Hash Ask Andy. I'm
Sorry,
a pretty
Andy.
open book.
Continue. Well,
Sip of whiskey. Yes, a sip of whiskey. Yes. Carry on. Carry on.
I'm
so
glad I
this is
inspired
what
your
happens
creativity.
when you invite Andy Hadfield and Nick Callegari onto
Yeah.
the Zero Tech Show.
Anywho, so data privacy. I think data privacy is vastly underestimated, and Facebook has 700 million users. 699 million of them have no idea about the privacy settings, the privacy concerns, what they should be worried about, etc., etc., etc. And there's a there's a little site that I came across recently, which is called
The Lollipop site.
takethislollipop.com. And I highly recommend you show it to your mother, and your wife, and your baby, or your cousins and your sisters, and or whatever it might be. Essentially what it does is it's you connect to Facebook, and I was sitting at a client today, and I was showing him as potentially using this for a workshop. And when you connect to Facebook, I mean, he just said the allow this app to do everything to you and steal your friends and post to your wall and post as you and all those security settings that come up on Facebook. He was like, no, allow. Didn't even read it. And that's how things go wrong. So what it does is it pulls all your social graph information out, and then it interposes it in a picture of a really freaky child molester looking like dude, sitting there in a vest, like a sweaty, dirty vest.
Because all child molesters wear vests.
Of course,
Yeah.
it's the stereotype.
That's how you spot them.
Totally.
Exactly.
Very, very handy.
Yeah.
Hang around schools.
Don't
wearing
take
a sweaty
sweets
vest.
from sweaty vests, but anyone else is fine. And so this guy sweatingly clicks through your life and looks at your friends and everything, and it ends with this picture of a razor blade and a lollipop, and then it picks a random friend of yours, and it says, Joe Smith is next, and then puts an hour counter.
And he
on
like
it.
drives to your house, right? Because he sees your address. That's the big
Yeah,
thing.
he zooms into you on
Yeah.
a map, and it's freaky for people that are not in the tech industry.
There was a video out on the internet a couple of weeks ago, which was something very similar. It was, I think it was a CBS news report about how easily, sexual predators can actually find out where you are, where your kids are, just from the photos that you upload to Facebook, because all of these smartphones now come with GPSs, come with all the smart software that geotag absolutely everything without you knowing.
It's basically
And all of a
please rob
sudden-
me all over
Yeah,
again.
all of a sudden you've taken a photo of your kid playing on the swings in the park, you've taken a photo of your kid at school, you've taken a photo of your kid at home. All of a sudden somebody knows exactly where your kid plays, where your kid goes to school, and where your kid lives.
I don't know. I have issues with that kind of thing. Anyway, I mean, Andy, I've just looked here. TechCrunch reports that 15 to 20% of Facebook users have ever accessed their settings, which isn't that many.
Yeah, and then understood the settings is another one.
Probably much
So
lower.
I think it's every
Okay.
tech person's duty to take a non-tech person to that site.
Okay.
There almost needs to be a new generation of, those messages that you used to get at the end of cartoons, like the G.I. Joe cartoon.
The
was
Brave
like,
Star.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
you know,
you're
like
talking
Brave
about.
Star
I'm
was
sorry,
great.
wrong
Remember, kids,
generation. What are
don't
you talking about?
Take candy from strangers, and now you know. And
Brave
knowing is
Star
half
would
the
never
battle.
do it.
I do remember that from He-Man. There was
Yeah.
this gay guy with his long blonde hair thinks the following. Anyway, okay, Nick, let's go
Nothing
to.
against our gay listeners,
No,
because we value
absolutely.
you and
But it's just funny when you. kind of
Teletubbies
look
is a
at
social
all-
commentary in itself.
Anyway, Nick.
I have half an hour of that every day. Thank you.
It's a great thing to do when you're stoned. Anyway, Nick, your technology picks of the week.
So I had one, and then on the way here I actually decided to do two because they're both equally awesome. The first one I actually stumbled upon on Tech Central today, and Duncan McLeod, who's the editor, he focuses on little startups and he gives them a little bit of airtime to say what they do and hopefully get them some PR. It's called Guzzle.
I love this pic.
Guzzle, guzzle, guzzle.
It is the
So
coolest
clever.
It's amazing.
website I have ever seen in my life.
It just
not in
yeah.
my life, but I mean it's a pretty cool pic.
Yeah.
What they do now on the internet is covered with price comparison websites. You've got Price Check, for example. You go into Price Check if you want to know how much something is. You type it in,
Smart
and
shopper.
it comes up with a bunch of irrelevant links, things that are loosely related to your search. Maybe your search comes up and you find out how much it costs. Guzzle, what they do, they physically go take all the broadsheets from all the newspapers, like from Game and Macro and Dion Wide, etc.
Which are the most read things in South
Yeah,
Africa when it
absolutely.
comes to print media, let's just say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they manually capture all the specials from these broadsheets. So at any one time, you can log on to guzzle.co.za and see who has the best deal on a Samsung Blu-ray home theater system. And it's so simple, but it is so useful. And what I love about it is it's relevant. The stuff exists. The prices are accurate, and you can go tomorrow and go buy whatever you want to go.
And you don't need to kind of convert
So
them into
guzzle.co.za,
rands in your head.
and thanks again to Duncan for putting them up, because I'm going to be using that website a lot.
I'm not going to tell that website to my wife.
Christmas bonus pending.
And your second
Yep.
pick, Nick?
So the second pick, and I was thinking about it on the way here, is everybody knows that I'm a comic book freak as well. And I'm all about the Marvels at the moment. With the Avengers trailer, go Google that and watch that if you haven't. I think I changed my pants twice watching the trailer for the
Is
first
Uma
time.
in it?
No, but
No,
no.
but it just looks amazing.
Scarlett Johansson is in it.
Ah.
Which the sexiest woman on the planet, let's just say. And now we've
people didn't
actually
watch
seen
that
her
trailer
bum.
to see Scarlett. People watched that trailer to see what the Hulk would actually look like, and we got a split second of him. But anyway, I'm digressing. So Marvel and Image and Dark Horse and all the big publishers have got apps for the iPad, and DC's just recently sort of revamped their comic book read on the iPad. They've made navigating a whole lot easier. They've made finding your comics and buying comics and sort of categorizing stuff by series, for example, a whole lot easier. They've made the UI a lot more intuitive. It is. All the other comic book apps run the same. They're all based on the Comixology app, but DC has just sort of made it a lot more usable. And tied into that, they've just relaunched 52 of their titles. It's called the New 52. Now, for all those geeks who aren't in the know, DC was getting a bit long in the tooth. People were getting confused about who belonged to what series, and DC took a decision to relaunch everything with number ones. And it was Batman, Superman, Catwoman, Action Comics, Detective Comics, Green Lantern, a whole bunch. There's 52 of them. And they're all accessible on the day of release in the States through this iPad app. You
That's
just
awesome.
pay your $1.99 or $2.99. Some are $4 to read these comics, but they've really... I've never been a big DC fan, but there are some really, really, really good comics coming out of these guys. And reading on the iPad is just so convenient.
It's beautiful.
And it's beautiful to look at. I mean, the colors and the stuff that come through on the screen. So I know I'm waffling on now, but the DC app it's definitely taken a lot of the limelight away from Marvel.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see what Marvel's going to do to respond to that.
I mean, it's definitely, if you are a comic book fan, an iPad is just totally essential. I mean, before I kind of had a tablet, I was reading a lot of graphic novels on the Kindle DX, which is fine if they're black and white things. But as soon as you want to get that full, rich color experience, there's nothing better.
And if I could recommend a couple of the new 52s to read as well, because they really are good. I mean, my number one pick is Detective Comics. It comes with a very mature rating. The very final panel of that comic, I had sleepless nights. Let's just say that. Detective Comics, really good. Batwing, very good. Stormwatch, very good. And I've heard good things about the relaunch of Catwoman as well. So
Yeah, I also heard good things, because it was just so camp before. It's interesting to see how they
absolutely.
regenerated. My favorite comic at the moment is Transmetropolitan. I don't know if
Okay.
you've seen it. It's very dark, very sort of postmodern.
Vertigo Comics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know
so
what we didn't talk about is maybe you did last week, the Kindles.
Yes.
And you know why I ask?
$69.
You know why I ask is because I almost bought one in England, and I went to the guy and I was like, "Listen, when's the next one going to come out?" And he was like, "Monday." Oh. That sucks.
Yeah.
So I didn't buy one.
Yeah.
And now there's the Touch, and the Touch has the there's the old cheaper one, the $69 one, which has a little wheel you have to move around in order to type.
But how often do you type on your Kindle?
Unless you are taking notes which are shared socially, which I think is one of the biggest killer apps that Amazon could ever have, and I haven't really turned the switch on that.
Yeah.
Then you got the Touch, and I think if you touch it, you're going to get fingerprints on it, and it's going to look crap.
And then there's the Fire.
And there's the tablet. So, sorry, I'm over tablets.
And he's less excited about the tablet.
So we shouldn't really speak about FNB's tablet and smartphone offers.
Well,
No, that's damn clever.
I would love to, but we are a little bit over time.
That's damn clever. They're giving it away. Anyway, let's do a pick. You can tell me some other time which Kindle I should buy.
I would say the cheap one, personally. Just, I don't know. I've had the DX and I've had the Kindle 2, and the Kindle 2 is just amazing. I mean, unless you want to use it as a work device where you're taking it around, like a number of lawyer friends I know kind of have all of their law journals with them, and that's great. But if you're just reading books, just get the cheap one. Seriously, it's a perfect device.
69.
Okay, so my 2 picks of the week. I have a pick on and a pick. My pick on of the week was the
heat wave.
No.
Damn this heat wave.
No, I'm loving the heat wave. Finally getting some colour on my
Thong
skin.
weather, man.
I get to fantasize about Andy in a thong. I mean, what more could I ask for? So my pick on of the week is this incredibly strange announcement that was reported by HP and Condé Nast. Now, I'm not sure how you say Condé Nast, Condé Nast. Condé Nast. They're the publishers of some really great magazines like Wired, which is just fantastic. So they made this announcement, which it's worth reading, and I'll actually tweet out the link because you have to read the press release. It's hilarious. And it's basically this idea of a new way to subscribe to digital magazines, where instead of downloading a PDF or an app or something, you get this file that you print on your HP inkjet printer, and you print out the entire magazine, and then you get to read it.
Because that's eco-friendly.
That's the best way to consume media these days.
Okay, so I thought it was much cleverer than that, and I was gonna go against your pick on. But it's not. It's stupid now.
It's so stupid.
But B, you'd be surprised. There's probably still a market for it because hands up, anyone who knows a marketing director, CEO, CFO who still prints their emails.
No, yeah, fair enough. But it's just desperate HP and trying to say, how do we continue selling HP inkjet printers even though no one prints shit anymore?
Well, it's not printers. It's how do we sell more ink? Because let's face it, it's not exactly going to take one cartridge to print an entire magazine. So the ink is kind of built into the subscription. So you kind of get your magazine every month. You print it. So what is it, like 900 Rand per magazine then?
It's absolutely hilarious. But the funniest part of this thing is if you actually go and read the press release, which is, written by some poor hyperbolic PR people about how this is going to revolutionize technology because tablets have never been invented.
You know what I thought it was going to be? I thought Condé Nast, and I don't know if there's a business model in this.
Yeah.
I thought they'd come up with a way for a small business to do a print run of 100 magazines that they would deliver to your doorstep.
Oh, no, that would make sense. That would make perfect sense.
And I thought that was a fantastic idea.
And
I saw these sarky comments on the show notes going, nye, 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 nye. But yeah, that's stupid.
They actually go, nye, 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 nye.
That's how they went, yeah.
In fewer words.
So just a quick little segue, and I know that we are out of time, so forgive me, but on the sort of print magazine thing, I found a Wired magazine from 1992 hanging around at Vega, and I picked it up. It is the most fascinating thing. The funniest thing is they have this advertorial for interactive TVs that could have been written today. It's fascinating. I'll actually send you guys a link. It's hilarious. Sorry, so my second pick, also on the same kind of path, it's this video that's going around, and I'll tweet the link again. It's a 1-year-old who, and we all know that 1-year-olds and iPads go together like, pigs and bacon. Sorry, terrible
really?
Example.
Do they make iPads out of little babies?
No, little pigs.
Little piggies.
Okay, all right, sorry, my bad.
That's how they smell so good. Anyway,
clearly I haven't had enough whiskey yet.
It's this little 1-year-old, and he's playing with his iPad, and obviously,
it's a she.
it might be a she. And Andy, we've had this conversation before about how touch interfaces are just so intuitive for kids that they just pick it up and they know exactly what to do. So he's playing with his iPad and it's great and kind of, stuff is happening as he expects. And then they put a print magazine in front of this kid and it starts trying to use it like an iPad. It starts trying to push stuff around and it gets increasingly frustrated that the iPad is broken. It kind of pushes harder and harder on the page and starts smashing it on the floor. So, it's just really funny to watch, but it says something very interesting for me about people who are born today, what their experiences of things like magazines are going to be. A magazine is always going to be a broken iPad.
No, I had this conversation with my wife. I've got a 17.
That's a very nice. Write that down. Yeah. Copyright it. A magazine is always going to be a broken iPad.
I've just got to turn it into a buzzword.
Is it? Well, I'm stealing it anyway.
I had this conversation with my wife the other day. I mean, I've got a 17-month-old who's already into my iPad and all my gadgets, and he knows how to resize photos on my phone now. So he takes great pleasure in doing that. But I worry that in all my geekiness, I'm not going to be able to keep up with his technology when he's our age.
Yeah.
And
we're going to try that.
It's a doff thing to say because we're all geeks and we all love to play and hack and whatever. But, you just got to ask yourself the question, what is this world going to look like in 15 years' time?
It's exciting.
It blows my mind.
So on that very exciting note, it's 10 past 8, so I think we need to wrap up tonight. Guys, it's been a pleasure. You have been both gentlemen and scholars.
And thank you for being such an able-bodied host.
Yes.
Hey?
Thank you.
So I think this is the first ZA Tech Show ever without Simon or Brett. At the helm, huh?
And stop worrying about time. We're fine.
We're
I've listened to a particular episode with both Haggard and Dingle that went on for an agonizing hour and 45 minutes. So I think we've done well.
We've done pretty well.
We're about an hour even
I'd like
at
to be
the
on the
moment.
show again. It wasn't agonizing at all.
I was about to say, good grief. So Andy Hadfield from Real Time Wine and
punt that at the
Mzansi
moment.
Gold. What are we punting of all the projects?
Punt Real Time Wine and Mzansi Gold.
Okay.
So one's the wine site,
punting
one's
those.
the Angel Entrepreneur Network.
Yeah, so you can find those both by Googling them. So we're not going to give you links. Andy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for bringing some liquid courage for me.
I always do. You missed a good one. Well, no, you had some, but Nick missed a good one. Yeah. This was I kind of bucked the trend. I usually bring nice, accessible wine. This was you have to know someone who knows someone who knows someone in order to get this.
Ooh.
It's called Pour May Me, which means between a few friends. And it's a private bottling. That's someone I don't know.
Oh, goodness gracious, I haven't seen a Syro
Very nice.
No, it's coming back.
So
it's just another word for sure.
There's your little bit of wine
today on the ZA
dropping.
Wine Show.
I always name drop some wine. Anyway, no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Sam.
And Nick Callegari, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you, Sam.
Nick from DSTV Online, doing really cool things in the online TV space.
For shizzle dizzle.
For shizzle manizzle. And I am Sam Beckbessinger, having been your very nervous but excited host this evening. The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za, and by Blackberry. Love doing business on your Blackberry. Smartphone at blackberry.co.za. Cool. Thanks. Good night.
Rate us on iTunes.
Or watch us on YouTube.